going with. But today, the title is living in all sufficiency. So that's the subheading. So if you're making notes, jot that down. I advise you make notes. Because, yeah, I'm going to say some of this stuff. Alright, so if we can all stand, we're going to all together corporately read out today's verse, or verse that we're coming to. Alright? 3, 2, 1, let's go.
And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work.
Amen.
Amen.
You may see it. I just wanted to get the verse ready. We can be sat for a while. But I'm just going to set the context of this passage, of this verse. Paul is writing to the church in Corinth. He's collecting an offering for the church in Jerusalem. And he's kind of just giving them a gentle reminder that they made pledges. So you know when someone at the church says, in an announcement says, oh, all of you that have pledged, make sure you pay your pledges. That's basically what he's doing in this chapter. And he's trying to make them understand that in giving, God is going to take care of everything concerning your life. When you give, God is under obligation pretty much to fund you, because he wants his work done in the earth. He wants his kingdom to grow. And if you're someone that you can trust with that, then he's going to make sure that you have enough. And that's what this verse is. And we're just going to go into more detail as we get into things, but that is the general gist of what I'm going to tell you today, or talk about today. It's that when you give to others and when you give to the kingdom, when your finances are straight and you understand money and what it's for, then God will make sure that you always have enough. Okay, so the 3 sections that we're going to look at today are what is sufficiency, why is sufficiency important, and how do we become self-sufficient. So we're going to tackle each one of these questions one by one. So before we start, what do you think sufficiency is? Anyone? When you hear the word sufficiency, what does it mean? Money?
Having enough.
Having enough? Okay, cool. That's part of it, yeah. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go with having enough. That's an aspect of it, and that is valid. So there are different translations and definitions of sufficiency, but yeah, that is an element of it. When we talk about sufficiency, the Greek in that passage is autarkian. So has anyone heard the word autarky before? Anyone studied Soviet Russia? USSR? No? Okay, so the concept of autarky is being completely self-sufficient. You don't need anything from anyone. I'm an independent woman, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's like you have everything by yourself. You're set. Like you don't need anyone. You don't need help from anybody. Like you're self-sufficient. You have autarky. And in this passage, this is what the word is getting at. And it comes from the word auto and archeo. So auto, automatic, car does by itself. So that's what the feeling around this word is. It's self-dependent. And archeo means sufficient. It's not self-sufficient in the sense that we don't need anything from God. It's to do with our horizontal relationships with man. So, of course, God is always supposed to be our source, and he always is our source. It's entirely God-produced. But at the same time, in our earthly relationships, we're not dependent on people and stuff. Again, self-sufficient. That's another definition. And content. So that's kind of what Amani was talking about. So being satisfied because you're living in God's fullness. God has taken care of everything concerning your life. You're not wanting for anything. And this is the one I really like. Possessing enough to need no aid or support, independent of external circumstances. So in this country we're blessed in that we have a state that's going to support us. So you can get benefits, you can childcare, all that stuff. And it's great, but we shouldn't be dependent on that. And that's what Paul is talking about. That's what this word entails. Like we don't need government support in our individual lives and as a church body. When we pay our offering, it's all gift aided. It's all it's good. We get 25% more. So if you pay £1, £10, you get £12.50 back from the government. But we shouldn't be dependent on that as a church. The church should not be a charity. And it's a mindset shift that has to occur amongst all of us in the church, that we shouldn't view ourselves as a charity. It's wrong for the church of God to be a charity. It's great that we have that support, but if the government is to pull the plug, and it might do, because this church, this world and this country is becoming more and more secular, and less people are going to church, less and less people believe in God. So, and there's always scandals about pastors taking excessive salaries. So what's to say the government someday won't just turn around and say, we're not going to give you any charity money? Are churches all going to go under? They shouldn't. They shouldn't, because we should have enough as individuals and as a corporate church to make sure that the things that we need to do can go on. So again, just to reread the verse, so we fully got it. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. You abound in every good work, so everything that you do, you will have more than enough. And all grace, that means for every area of our lives. So that's health, that's in our career, that's in our family, that's in our ministry, and in our finances. Finances are included in that. Abound, who knows what abound means? I know we use these words a lot, but just to make sure we're all on the same page. Anyone know what abound means?
Thinking exceeding expectations.
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So more than you need, overflow, that kind of idea. And when we are pursuing God and we're active in our service towards Him and we're setting about the kingdom, and God will take care of everything that we need. So I was listening to a preaching by Dr. Mensa Otabil, and he was talking about a time at the beginning of the church where he had to go somewhere to preach, but he had no money. He has to get there, but he has no money. And it's far, he can't go on foot. So he just thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to jump in a taxi. So no money in his pocket. It's happened twice. Jumped in a taxi. First time, cab driver said, I'll take you. That's fine. Free. And he got there to preach. But this man has no money in his pocket and he's getting in a taxi. Don't know if he plans to run. I don't know what he plans to do. Try and get someone to pay when he gets there. But he got there. Second time it happened, we got in a cab. You know the way they pack up cabs in Ghana. Like, 3-4 different journeys in the same car. And he was sitting on the left and there was someone in the middle. I don't know if they were in the back seat, they might have been in this Ghana. But and the person on the other end said, I'll pay for that man, and pointed to him, passed it to people. It's happened twice. He had no money, he got in a cab. And when you're setting about doing God's work, that's the type of thing that's going to happen. God will make sure that you have more than enough. And it's not just believers, it's a principle. So, who knows what philanthropists are, or what that word means? Rich people that do a lot of charity work, let me translate. So people like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, they are super rich, crazy rich. They can buy countries, we put it that way. They can buy Ghana. Yeah. But when they start their charity work, their wealth always increases. So Mark Zuckerberg, you saw that he gave basically all his money away into charities. His net worth has gone up since then. And it's a principle. If believers aren't going to do it, God's work has to continue. And God will bless them because it is a principle. Okay, so we're going to look at the 5 steps towards wealth. This is kind of, not a side topic, but just to kind of know where we're at in terms of looking at sufficiency and where it plays into the big picture in our lives. So we're at the first step on the ladder towards wealth. We have provision, and that is when God ensures that you have what you need. And it's a stage of us being taught to depend solely on God. So you'll find that in certain people's lives, they go through stages where they don't have much money, and they're literally like hand to mouth, everything they're struggling for. So Doc with a cab, like he didn't actually have money, but God provided. And it's a stage where God is trying to get us to trust him. And he's getting us to depend on him completely. Trying to get us to depend on him for everything and whatever we will need. Because when we come into abundance, how does he know that we're not going to squander it? How does he know we're going to be responsible with it? It's a time of testing, and I want us to look at Exodus chapter 16, verse 16 to 21.
Exodus 16, 16 to 20. This is what the Lord has commanded. Everyone is together as much as they do. Take an honor for each person you have in your tent. The Israelites did as they were told. Some gathered much, some little. And when they measured it by their own, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. Everyone has gathered just as much as they need. Then Moses said to them, No one is to keep any of it until morning. However, some of them paid no attention to Moses. Then kept part of it until morning. But it was full of maggots and began to smell. So Moses was angry with them. Each morning, everyone gathered as much as they needed. And when the sun grew hot, it melted away.
So this is when the Israelites and the Israelites, they just come out of Egypt, and there's manna falling from heaven, so they have what they need for the day. But some people are trying to gather it up and store it up. But God is training them to understand complete dependence and obedience towards him. They already had their hearts hardened towards him, and so God had to soften their hearts to where they would actually listen to him and learn to trust and depend on him wholeheartedly. Because if every single day you're just waiting for God and praying that God and trusting God's going to bring food to you, that's going to teach you to obey him and teach you to trust in him wholeheartedly. So that's what that was about in that phase of life. And some people go through that phase. So another man of God, Bishop T.D. Jakes, one of my favorite top three pastors, he again struggled at the beginning of the church. He couldn't pay his light bill. He couldn't afford new suits. I'll have to find a clip. It's pretty emotional. I'm a big guy, like almost in tears. But he was talking about this time when he was struggling at the beginning of the church, and there were times when he'd go to a service, he couldn't kneel to pray because he had holes in the bottom of his shoes. That's how much he was dragging. And so you see him now. He's got all these suits and he's got money, he's got cars, and people criticize him for it. But he's not come just because, and it's not because he's deep in the church. Like, he's a wealthy man because he's gone through these stages and he's learned to trust in God, have faith in God at every stage of life. The next stage is adequacy. So that is when you have what you need, like you're content. It's more than just hand to mouth. It's like you're okay, like you know where your food's coming from, and you're content with things. I mean, you can't do too much, but you're content. And I'm going to read. I'm just worried at the time. Got quite a lot to do still. Read Philippians chapter 4, verse 12. You just note it down, read it later. Paul in prison cell, he says, I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full or empty, with plenty or little. So Paul, he's had a lot, he's had nothing, but he's content. And the word adequacy shows up in this. The word sufficiency kind of shows up here, but it's in a different context. But it's kind of just, you're okay, like you're content, got a roof over your head, you're not like scratching your head for where like the next meal's coming from. And again, that is another training stage. We're going to skip sufficiency because we're going to go into that in more detail. Riches is when you've got a lot, like you've got things, you've got cars, you've got houses, you've got clothes, go on nice holidays. And King David's life was full of riches. And again, it is something that we as believers can get, and it's in God's plan and purpose for us. So I'm going to read from 1 Chronicles chapter 29, verses 26 to 28. So David, son of Jesse, reigned over all Israel. He reigned over Israel for 40 years, 7 of them in Hebron and 33 in Jerusalem. He died at a ripe old age, having enjoyed a long life, wealth and honor, riches and honor, another translation. Then King Solomon ruled in this place. Wealth is where we want to get to. Wealth is generational. So wealth is towards the future. It's more than just me now, I've got cars, I'm sorted, I can give a bit to people. It's leaving an inheritance that someone can take on. It goes beyond just your lifetime. And it's also a measure of how long you can go without working. So even when you've got riches, you still need to go to work. But when you're wealthy to that extent that you don't actually have to work, that's the realm that we need to get to where you can say, if I don't work for the rest of my life, I'm cool, I'm sorted. And that's complete and utter financial freedom. And when we desire to do God's work, that's what He'll do for us. So down Psalm 112, verses 1 to 3. Praise the Lord. How joyful are those who fear the Lord and delight in obeying His commands. Their children will be successful everywhere. An entire generation of godly people will be blessed. They themselves will be wealthy, and their good deeds will last forever. No more needs to be said. So this is the Psalm of David, talking about his children. His children, because of his obedience, he's going to have wealth, and his children will glorify God. So it goes beyond just our lives, it goes to our children as well. But that's a bit of an overview of the steps to our, but today we're going to be sticking at sufficiency. So that's the main thing that we're going to be looking at, and the main area. So that's more than just, you know where next meal is coming from, but you can also do a bit of giving. Like you've got enough money to give, and you're not struggling, you're kind of comfortable. And most people spend their lives at this stage, to be honest. They've grown to a certain point, and most of their lives, they're okay at this point. They can do a bit. Actually, more so adequacy, but sufficiency is, it's a step up from that, where you can actually give liberally and you can do things. I mean, before we get started, I want us to just have a little discussion. What do we think? It's wrong. Okay, why is it wrong?
The love of money.
Okay. Cool. Do we agree with that? Everyone agree? He still thinks that money is the root of all evil. No one? Okay, you're a smart bunch. That's good. That's good. It was said by no one in the Bible. No one ever said that. Ever. No one. Ever said that. Crystal got it right. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, it says, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. So, at the heart of a lot that goes on in the world is money. And that's true. And so I just wanted to say this to highlight that we need to think critically. We can't just take what people say, but actually, if people say things and it sounds like it doesn't line up, look into it for ourselves. But like I said, we're a smart bunch, so I'm pleased to see that. So, what do we think? What kinds of evil is a love of money responsible for? Anything? Anyone? Yep. Corruption, cool. Manual? Greed, good. Drug trade, wars. But, has anyone considered, what do we think idolatry is? So it's putting money before God. That's probably the number one thing that people do. And a lot of the time when people talk about this passage of scripture, that the love of money being the root of all evil, it's harder for a rich man to get through the eye of the needle, and all these cliches. They usually think about how rich people turn away from God. But has anyone considered that the love of money is actually a problem for those that are poor as well? Poverty can make you compromise. It can make you compromise. And I'm not here to say that being poor is a sin, and some people they go through that and it's difficult. But I'm just trying to make you understand that it's not only rich people that have a problem with money or can have a problem with money. Who's more likely to say that they can't afford to pay their tithes? A rich person or a poor person? I'm not saying that rich people all pay their tithes, because some people just don't, but for that to be a reason, saying I don't have enough, that is more likely to be a poor person. Some people, when they go through that kind of phase and period of life where they don't have much, it can create a dependency on God, which is great, and strength building and faith building. So someone like Bishop J, someone like Mesa Otable, others that have had nothing. But some people can, because of their lack, begin to resent God and say, God, I don't understand, I've been doing all this, I've been coming to church, why is my life not changing? Who's more likely to be working longer hours? A rich person or a poor person? Or, okay, let's say rich, wealthy person or a poor person? Poor person, because rich people, they still have to work. But when we're talking about wealth, it's, you don't really have to work. Who's more likely to have to take a shift on a Sunday? I'm not saying that, you know, going to church is the be all and end all. Like, going to church is important, and there are seasons in our lives where, for one reason or another, we can't make it to church. But to have to compromise is more. It's not only the rich person. Let me just put it that way for someone. It's not only the rich person that's gonna say that I'm not gonna pay my offering. I'm not gonna come to church because I don't need God. Some people might have their hearts hardened towards God because of their state, and it's not their fault. They're trying all the best that they can, and for some people, some people might just trying to do the right thing by their kids. You know, you haven't got enough money, so you're going to work. Your kids aren't going to church. Their spiritual growth is going to be impacted by that. But I'm just trying to get you to understand that, you know, the problem of money or having money isn't just a rich person problem. It's poor people as well that can have to compromise. I've been to Amsterdam and I've seen the red light district, and it's like, who's gone to Westfield? Westfield Shopping Centre. You see, like, in the shop window, you see a mannequin of like clothes items. Yeah, that's how the women are standing in the shops, in the storefronts. Like commodities, like items, like clothing, and it's not a joke. It's a serious place. It's a dark place, and they're only there because of money, because they need money. Jesus said, "No one can serve two masters. For you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." So regardless of whether you're rich or whether you're poor, God has to be our number one. He has to be our number one. Money isn't in itself bad, but it's the love of money that's bad. And this whole point that I'm trying to make is that it's not about being rich or poor, it's about our mindset, and it's about our approach to God. Money is important, yes, and being poor isn't ideal, of course, but ultimately it's our mindset. And if you have a wealth mindset, then regardless of your state now, you might be broke, but you're not going to be poor eternally. You're not going to be poor forever. If you're able to apply principles and live by faith and actually work it out and do what you're supposed to do, success is predictable. And if you listen to any, like Uncle Alex said before, success is predictable. You can look at someone and say, this person is going to be in this place. And it's because they apply principles. Any successful business person says this, it's not rocket science. It seems it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the most difficult thing. Just having discipline and applying principles step by step. So now we've addressed that, let's get back to why sufficiency is important. We need money for three things. Note them down. First thing is life building. So we need money to survive, we need money for food, clothes, tuition fees, mortgage, rent. We need money to survive, we need money to live, exist. We need money for investing. We need money for saving. And we need money for having fun. Sometimes we get too spiritual and think that, oh, well, our money should go to offering, to projects. But God actually wants us to enjoy our money. 1 Timothy 6:17.
Most of those who are rich, the things of the world, Tell them not to be proud. Tell them to hope in God, not their money. Money cannot be trusted, but God takes care of us richly. He gives us everything to enjoy.
Amen. So, there's nothing wrong with buying stuff. You shouldn't feel guilty about having fun, but of course there has to be wisdom applied to it. You can't be having red bottoms and be eating in the week for dinner. That's not a waste of your life. And the most important one is the kingdom of God. We need money to build the kingdom of God. That is the most important thing. And so when we're talking about sufficiency, going back to the first scripture that we looked at, God is going to make sure that we have everything that we need if we are concerning ourselves with the kingdom of God. So different ways that we give to God: tithes, offerings, alms, and first fruit. They're all 4 different things and they all have distinct purposes, but we can't get into that. We don't really have time for that. But yeah, they are all different and you can't just chuck them all in anyhow and expect them to work the same way, because they don't. God is a God of order. But those are 4 ways of giving for God's work, and like I said, for kingdom building. When Jesus was on earth, he had his ministry and he had people that financed him. Let's look at Luke chapter 8, verse 3.
Joanna, whose husband Judah was an officer in Herod's court, and Susanna and many other women who helped use their own resources to help Jesus and his disciples.
So Jesus had people who financed his ministry whilst he was here on earth. And they, of course, would have been blessed for it. So, we looked at why sufficiency is important. So now we're actually going to tackle how we become self-sufficient. 3 keys, major keys. What? First key is giving. Honor God first. So Malachi chapter 3, verse 8 to 16. 16 to 12. 3 to 12. Yeah. Malachi chapter 3, verse 8 to 12.
Though a man rob God, yet he have not, yet ye have robbed me, yet he has robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed you? In tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that they may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, and try me now in this, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out your such blessings, that there will be not room enough to receive it.
Thank you. So this is one of the times in scripture that God said, test me. So we have to try God in this. That's what he said, like, actually, go on, try it. Try me. Like, see what I'll do. And a lot of the time we don't actually test God when he says we should test him. And we complain. But God's actually told us that if we do this, then he'll pour out a blessing and other nations will be jealous of us. People will be looking at us and be like, I want what he has. To 26. The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives. Though they stumble, they will never fall, for the Lord holds them by the hand. This is King David talking as an old man. Once I was young, and now I am old. Makes sense. And yet I have never seen the godly abandoned, or their children begging for bread. The godly always give generous loans to others, and their children are a blessing. So again, we're talking about wealth, and it's generational. It's their children as well that are being impacted by their giving. He said he's been young, he's been old, and he's never seen the righteous begging for bread. And the righteous give generously. The righteous give generously. Give and God will give to you. Again, when we give to others, God is under obligation to give to us. Can you read Matthew chapter 6, verse 31 to 33? When you're ready. And can I get 2 Corinthians 9, 11? So Matthew 6, 31 to 33, please, Stephen.
Therefore, take no thought saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or withal shall we glory in. For after all these things do the Gentiles seek, but your heavenly Father knows that ye have need of all these things. But ye seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be given to you.
Amen. So God knows what we need. He knows what we need. So he's asking us, why do we concern ourselves? Why do we think about what we need? Because he's got it. God's got it. When we think about when we focus our energies on the kingdom, then all these things will be given to us. Again, I mentioned Bill Gates and Warren Buffett earlier. The giving pledge. So this is something that they've done, an initiative where the pair of them are trying to get billionaires, rich people all around the world to give 50% of their net wealth in their lifetime to charitable causes. So they've signed up, I think Warren Buffett's keeping like 1%, something like really small, all his net worth. And they're trying to get all billionaires around the world, so China, Russian, in Africa, America, everyone to sign up. And again, their net wealth has gone up since they did this project, back in 2010. Bill Gates is worth $80 billion. 80. And when we give our gifts and service to God, this is probably the most important. Well, no, it's not most important. It's major, it's important, really important. So when Solomon was getting ready to become king, God asked him what he wanted. And I'm just going to read from that passage. So it's 2 Chronicles chapter 1. I'm hitting you up with Bible verses today. 2 Chronicles chapter 1, verse 7 to 12. I just like you to know that I'm not making stuff up. That was fun. That night God appeared to Solomon and said, "What do you want? Ask and I will give it to you." Solomon replied, "You have shown great and faithful love to David my father, and now you have made me king in his place. O Lord my God, please continue to keep your promise to David my father, for you have made me king over a people as numerous as the dust of the earth. Give me the wisdom and knowledge to lead them properly, for who could govern these great people of yours?" So God asked him what he wants, and he says, "I want the wisdom to lead your people. I want to know how to serve you best." And God said to Solomon, "Because your greatest desire is to help your people, you did not ask me for wealth, riches, fame, or even the death of your enemies or a long life, but rather you asked for wisdom and knowledge to properly govern my people. I will certainly give you the wisdom and knowledge you requested, but I will give you wealth, riches, and fame, such as no other king has before you or will ever have in the future." Solomon desired to serve God, and God asked him, "What do you want? What's your number one thing?" I know people, no one would say that. Or you ask for red bottoms, you ask for, I don't know what you ask for, more followers on Instagram, I don't know. But wisdom and knowledge to serve God would not be number one of most people's agenda. But because that was the top of Solomon's agenda, God gave him everything else that he wanted or could have wanted. The next key is mindset. Speaking to myself more time, but we need to develop a wealth mindset. Wealth is greater than riches. In that wealth, like I said earlier, is generational. It looks to the future. It's more about leaving a legacy, leaving a dynasty, leaving an inheritance for others, and going beyond just having nice things. So riches, you can have cars depreciate in value, go down in value. As soon as you buy them, they lose like 30% of their value. So if you buy a £100,000 car, you could have just burned £30,000, like just put it in a bonfire and set it ablaze. As soon as you buy it, take off the forecourt. Wealth is more concerned with how can I use my money to get more money. That's what rich people do. That's how they or wealthy people, that's how they stay ahead. They think, how can I buy money with money? So that should be our primary thing. Don't think about what can I. Of course, like I said, you can use money for enjoyment, but the more money that you have, the more enjoyment you can have. So it's more about looking long term and thinking short term. What can I have? And these are the order. This is the order that you should order your finances in. So investing first, saving second, spending third. A lot of people say pay yourself first. So that in essence means use your money for investing and saving before you do anything else. Pay yourself first. So don't go out and buy stuff. Make sure you pay yourself first. Pay your future self first. Again, in the order of things you should be spending your money on or using your money to acquire, assets first. So assets is anything that is going to go up in value or likely to go up in value in the future. Appreciating assets are things that lose value. So like we're talking about cars, and then liability. So spending your money on clothes. Clothes are great, I like clothes, clothes are cool. But that's your primary focus. Clothes, jewelry, diamonds. You're throwing money away. Diamonds are nothing like that, but they're worthless. Diamonds are worthless. Of course, depreciating assets you do need, because if you buy a computer, I'm using one now, it's going to go down in value, but I'm making use of it. You're making use of a car. But of course, the bulk of your money should be focused on building up your asset base. And this is probably one of the most important things. Never borrow to consume, only borrow to invest. And the Bible says, in Deuteronomy, one of the promises is, I'm a lender, not a borrower. And that's more to do with a mindset or a state. So you might have to borrow. All of us here have been to uni, had to borrow to go to uni, but that's an investment in our future. So borrowing in itself isn't a bad thing, but what are you using that borrowing to do? Are you using it just so you can buy more stuff that you're going to have to, that's not going to return anything to you? If we said we never want to borrow, then a lot of us wouldn't have the education that we have. Barack Obama, he went to Harvard, right? Yeah. Their student fees are ridiculous. If he said I didn't want to borrow, then he wouldn't be the president that he is now. So borrowing in itself isn't a bad thing, but it's what you borrow it for, what you're using that for. And develop multiple income streams. So get money from different places, not just focus on your job. Develop a skill in other areas. So I know there's some people here that do hair, some people that do photography, some people that do all other things, some people do tutoring, and have your money coming from more than just one place. So if you lose a job or something goes wrong, you're not going to be sat there like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, you have other alternatives because you've developed yourself in other areas and you're not dependent on just one thing. And broaden your knowledge. So let's feed yourself different things. Don't always watch the same shows. Don't always read the same type of books. Don't always watch Housewives of Atlanta. Don't always watch football. Let's have some balance. Let's always watch football. Don't always watch Game of Thrones. There are other things out there. Like, you can watch other things. You can read other books. Don't just read Daily Mail gossip. Like, read other things. Like, there are so many different things out there, and it's just about feeding yourself knowledge and learning to think in a different way. When you learn to think differently, your eyes will be open to different opportunities, different things that you can do. So just broaden yourself, expand your horizons. Watch a David Attenborough documentary.
Yes.
And think bigger. A lot of people, when they get money, they think about things. They think about, I want to buy this, I want to do this. But, okay, so who wants to own, let's ask you a question actually. Who wants to own a Range Rover? Or, okay, hands up, okay. People want to own Ranges. Who's thought about owning Jaguar Land Rover, the company? Who's actually thought that far? Is that a thought that's crossed your mind? So just think bigger. Don't just stop at, I want to own a car. Have you thought about owning a car company? Think bigger. Because there are no limits of God, so I don't know why we set ourselves limits. And the next key is time. Some things just take time, and I'm learning that myself. I'm learning to become more patient, as frustrating as that can be. Yeah, tell me about it, Jeff. Wealth building is a process over time, and the world's best investor said, just read it and think about it for a second. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone read that? Everyone see that? For those that can't, I'll read it out, but I think everyone can. No matter how great the talent or efforts, some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. So it's the same amount of time that people have been pregnant for. 9 baby mamas, I don't know how you're going to manage that when they come, but it's the same amount of time that people have been, that women have been holding a baby, but you cannot produce the same result. You're not going to get a fully grown baby just because it's the same time across the different women, but something just takes time. And I take his word for it because his net worth is 66.4 billion as of this year. So I think he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a second richest man in the world, or third? Third, Carlos Slim. Yeah, third richest man in the world. So he knows what he's talking about when it comes to investing. Impatience can cause us to take shortcuts. It can cause setbacks, or it can, worse, cause us to break the law. So people want to get rich quick and they see nice things and they want to become a top shotter and they end up in prison or dead. And it's not really a joke. I say it lightheartedly, but it's not a joke. People have died because they wanted the things, they saw the nice things and didn't want to put the work and take the effort and time to build stuff properly to accumulate it. So they in a grave or in a jail cell a lot of the time, just because they can be patient. A lot of people, some people are around that age now, but if, and people's circumstances are different, but one thing I would advise, if possible, when you guys go to uni and you come home, try and stay home. Like, as difficult as that can be sometimes if you've got tough parents. A lot of people, when they get to a certain age, they've moved out, they're renting, but they look back and they've been working for so long and they haven't got anything in the bank. Like, some people have different circumstances. Like, you might actually have to move out and whatever reason, you might be working in a different place, you might, whatever. But if you've got the option to stay at home, your parents are tolerable, then stay at home and stack. Just save the money and buy a house because you don't want to be spending money on rent, coming home, coming back home, moving back in after a long period of time to now be back to square one. It's not the way to live your life. You can help it, if you can help it. But for some people, you have to move away. A lot of people, my friends from me, have moved down from other cities into London and they have to rent, but they're envious because I actually have the chance to just stay at home and just save money. And seed needs 3 things to grow. And Jesus was talking about it in the Word, but I'm just going to apply this principle. It needs soil, the right environment, and time. So put it in the right place, feed it with the right things, and over time you'll get what you want. And Dr. Miles Monroe said, a farmer doesn't pray when he sows a seed because he knows it's going to grow. You don't need to stand there by the seed, blowing tongues at the seed. It's going to grow because it's in the right place, and over time you just have to wait for it. Okay. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Anyone want to fashion a guess as to who said that?
Is it Einstein?
Ah. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein said that. Yeah. I was like, Sandra, what's compound interest?
Is it like, you know, you take money from the bank and then they add on money that you have to pay when you have to pay it back? Is that? I don't know.
Ish, kind of. Okay, so if you've got money in the bank, say, okay, easy maths question. You've got £1,000 in the bank, and it earns 10% interest. How much does it have? How much is in your bank? After that. 1,100. Okay. So when you earn interest the next month, are you earning 100 again? You're earning 10% of 1,100. So it compounds and adds up over time. And compound interest can be your best friend or your worst enemy. If you've got a loan that's compounding, then wait. Yeah. But if you've got money in the bank and it's building up over time, then you're going to be nice. So saving is something that is important for us to learn to do now. Even if you're earning £10 a week, your banks can be pocket money. Start to get into that wealth mindset of putting £1 aside. Minimum 10% if you can. Minimum 10% if you can. And over time, of course, that will build. 5% interest on £1 is 5p, but it's starting somewhere. It's not about the money, it's about the mindset. And if you haven't got money now, if you get into the wealth mindset, it's only a matter of time before it catches up and you actually accumulate wealth. And timing. The quote, have I written down? I did. The opportunity of a lifetime must be seized within the lifetime of an opportunity. So some things and some opportunities just come around once, but it's not all on us because we have the Holy Spirit who is our helper. And so when we're communing with the Holy Spirit, we are pursuing Him and we're concerning ourselves with His purposes on the earth, building the kingdom. He'll make opportunities known to us, enable us to seize opportunities of a lifetime, and some things that just come around once. And like I said, wealth building requires us to be patient. I have a pleasant surprise for you guys.
Is it money?
Also, it's already ours. It's already ours. Can we turn to Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 3?
Now Jehovah said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, into the land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and be thou a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee, and him that curseth thee will I curse, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
So we are heirs of Abraham. We've already been blessed with wealth, and I'm not going to have time to go through all the scriptures. I will just pick out a couple. So just to prove that we've already been blessed with wealth, I'm going to read first Proverbs chapter 10, verse 22. So the blessing of the Lord makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. So the blessing of the Lord that was bestowed on Abraham, that's ours. So we've been made rich, and he's added no sorrow to it. And just to show you in the New Testament, one old, one new, Joseph Prince style. Reading from Galatians chapter 3, verse 14. Through Christ Jesus, God has blessed the Gentiles with the same blessing He promised to Abraham, so that we who are believers might receive the promised Holy Spirit through faith. So we've been blessed with the same blessing and everything that entailed, everything that contained. And prosperity is part of the redemption package. So that just basically means that when we accepted Christ, we have wealth made available to us as well in our lives. That's apart from salvation, being born again and going to heaven, we can actually have good things on earth and be wealthy on earth because of what Jesus has done for us. And we can see in Genesis, the next chapter, Genesis chapter 13, verse 2, Abraham was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. So from Genesis 12 to 13, you can see that he was rich already. And everything that Abraham has, the lineage of Abraham, so Christ is one of the descendants of Abraham. Because we're born again and we're in Christ, we are heirs to that. And when we talk about heirs, we're talking about someone receiving something that's significant. You don't talk about heirs or being an heir if it's not to something prestigious or glorious. You talk about heir to a throne, heir to the Iron Throne. Genesis chapter 26, get back to the Bible, and we'll Game of Thrones references. Genesis chapter 26, verse 13. So it's Isaac now, his son. So we're talking generational. And Isaac is the child of promise. And he's the one who the blessing of Abraham flows to us through. And you can see in his own life that he was wealthy as well. He became a very rich man and his wealth continued to grow. Talking about Abraham. And to show you that we are heirs, Galatians chapter 3, verse 29. Which says, "And now you that belong to Christ are the true children of Abraham. You are his heirs, and God's promise to Abraham belongs to you." So highlight that, write it down. Everything that God said about Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 3, is ours and belongs to us. And it's independent of what's going on in the world. So when recessions are happening and people are losing their jobs, that doesn't have to apply to us. We can still make wealth, and people make money in the recession. I watched a movie last week called The Big Short. Has anyone heard of that film? It was in the cinemas not too long ago. It's broaden your knowledge, right? Watch other films. And it's about the financial crash. And someone made $1 billion when everything and everyone was losing money because they saw that it was going to crash and they took advantage of it. And so we can still make money when everyone is losing money. And reading from Genesis chapter 26, verse 12, it says, when Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted, for the Lord blessed him. And this was in a time of famine. So he was still blessed because he sowed and had faith and applied the wealth principles. So in summary, the 3 keys to self-sufficiency are giving, developing a wealth mindset, time, and we know that God has really blessed us with wealth. And it's on us to apply our faith and see that inheritance become a reality in our